Here we go. History in the making.
Green, green, green.
It's time to find out if the Lady in Black is part of the world that's against the 11, and if the Xfinity drivers can behave. Hi, this is Brett McMillan. You listen to the Pit Reporters. With me this week, Lee Spencer from CatchFence.com and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, and Reed Spencer from the NASCAR Wire Service.
Welcome to the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network. And now, here's your host, Brett McMillan.
Well, glad to have you with us. Glad to have Reed and Lee here as well. Just when we're ready to bury Denny Hamlin, by gosh, he rises up from the depths of the hated world and picks up the checkered flag at Martinsville, a place he'd been so successful so many times over the years, but not in the last almost decade. Yeah.
Decade. He just had to find his comfort zone with the next gen car. The Gen 6, knew what he needed, knew what he wanted, and they had to figure it out. He and Chris Gale went to work on that, and I think it played to their advantage. And I've got to say that Joe Gibbs Racing overall, they weren't happy with their short track package. They suffered at the smaller tracks, and even Phoenix. Phoenix wasn't great for them. They knew they had to get back up on the horse to be able to compete, and putting Chris Gabehart in the position to oversee all the teams has paid off with 4 wins in the first 7 races.
And, Christopher Bell, the guy who's already had 3 wins, finishes second, also got the pole at Martinsville, Reed.
Yes, he did. And what I think that indicates is my takeaway from that race was that there still is adjustability in the Gen 7 car, because Chris Gale and Denny Hamlin came up with something that was a radical departure, not just tweaks. I think Christopher Bell probably benefited from that as well. Actually surprised himself by winning the pole, because he went out 17th on Saturday in the first group, and usually that's a death knell for qualifying, that the guys who go last when the rubber's laid down are going to be the faster drivers. But that didn't happen. Christopher Bell's time stood up for the pole. And Denny Hamlin also qualified well. And they ran extremely well. And so I think they really found something with the short track package. Although I will say that of Denny's last 5 wins, 4 of them prior to Martinsville were on short tracks. And then the 15 before that, only 1 was. So, he's been okay on short tracks lately, but, I think that this was definitely an improvement. He said basically that what they had allowed them to run from 3rd to 5th, but not to win the race, and they found the winning combination on Sunday.
And the impressive thing was, he pulled away at the end, Lee. There was no catching him. And Christopher Bell, there was, 10 more laps wouldn't have made any difference. Hamlin was pulling away.
Well, and that was what the gentleman that I talked to on pit road afterwards said. Once he got out, once he established that lead, he was gone. Joey Logano, who finally got his first top 10 finish of the year, he said, if I could have stayed up there, I think I had a winning car. I did not get that sentiment from the Hendrick drivers. And Bell knew once Denny got away that he was gone as well. You hate to talk about aero at a shorter track or a short track, but in clean air, Denny was money.
Yeah, the victory margin was 4.617 seconds, which, not that surprising with a 75-lap green flag run to finish the race. But Toyotas were 1, 2, 3, which was a radical departure from the spring before when Hendrick drivers were 1, 2, 3.
All right, Denny pulls out the flags. It's 11 against the world. Talked about it in the media center afterwards, and he was asked flat out, why do that? He goes, I love it. He goes, why not do it? He says, I love tweaking people. He goes, I trash talk when I play golf. I trash talk when I play pickleball. I trash talk when I play basketball. He goes, if it irritates people, all the better. Well, I think it's irritating people, Lee.
I think it fuels Denny Hamlin, though, and I don't think his the jeers and the boos were as loud this last time at Martinsville. I think people started feeling a little sorry for Denny, kind of like Kyle Busch. Here are these guys that have been so dominant for years, Kyle being a 2-time champion, but they're starting to embrace these 40-something drivers. They don't know how much longer they're going to have them, but on the other side of that, Denny embraces the villain. You got to have somebody that plays the heel Denny Hamlin is the heel in NASCAR's Cup Series.
Well, he did beat everybody's favorite driver, so
He's not allowed to say that anymore. Dad told him to stop saying that after Bristol last year.
yes, he did. But I mean, the thing is that Denny's also a native son of Virginia, and so probably the boos are a little bit less because of that. I mean, he grew up.
It was brutal last year in Richmond.
Well, that's true. It was,
and that is his actual home track.
Yeah,
so.
that's true. That his MO is basically to pee people off.
Well, maybe people are starting to feel sorry for him that he's gone so long without winning the championship. He's got 55 career wins now, matching Rusty Wallace, and he hasn't won a championship yet. So maybe people are starting to feel sorry for him.
I think there is a little of that. There's a little sympathy for Denny Hamlin. I think there's more sympathy for Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has had a resurgence in fan support, particularly after moving to RCR, driving a Chevrolet. It's kind of, endeared him to the fan base. And I don't think that Hamlin will get that same kind of love simply because then he's not really a lovable guy. But,
But his is also, it's interesting because Kyle was not liked early on. But now he's getting that veteran, senior member of the sport, the elder statesman type love. Denny's went the opposite direction. People liked him early on, but now he's turned into, you talked about it, Lee, the villain, and he's tweaking everybody and he's trash talking everybody. So now it's gone the other direction. So I don't think it's going to go back that way because he likes playing the villain.
And he's suing NASCAR. So
there's that.
Well, I know people may like that. I don't know.
but the thing is, I think another thing that basically accounts for Kyle Busch's increased popularity is his son Brexton. I think people are, seeing their relationship, seeing how much he enjoyed racing against Brexton at Millbridge, and I think the family aspect has contributed to Kyle Busch's resurgence in popularity as well. Denny doesn't have that yet, although I did notice that Lee interviewed his daughter in Victory Lane and tried to get some words out of her.
Molly was hanging on his leg for dear life.
And did she say anything interesting?
She told me her cousins were there. I'm like, how's it feel to get Dad back in Victory Lane? My cousins are. You don't interview children. You don't interview pets. So.
If you get, you might get a good word or two out of the kids.
Maybe.
Another, you talked about Toyotas being 1, 2, 3. The story about Bubba Wallace this year really continues to grow. He is having so far a career year. He's sitting there. Yeah, he's 8th in points. He actually dropped a spot in the standings this week, but still, because his boss moved past him. But a 3rd place finish at Martinsville, where he's had some success in other series. But he really is starting to look to be a force to be reckoned with.
He was disappointed with finishing 3rd, and I wrote about that on Catch Fence. He thought he had more in the tank. I think all of them, had they been able to get around Denny, we might be, talking about a different winner right now. But whoever got out front was going to win that race, barring a bunch of yellow flags like we saw in the Xfinity race, but we'll save that for later. It was just something with the relationship between he and Charles DeNike, who I'm interviewing this week for the front stretch. The interview will run on Saturday morning. Charles is that infusion of fresh blood he needed at the crew chief level. I'm not taking anything away from Booty Barker. He's proven his worth over the years, but I think you needed somebody young. He needed somebody he could relate to, and I think he's found that in Charles.
Well, I think that was instant chemistry, or certainly seems that way. And I think Charles's approach is more technical than perhaps Booty's was, and I think that change has been really beneficial for Bubba. I mean, now 2 third-place finishes in a row and looking like he's poised to win a race.
And could have had another top 5 at Las Vegas.
Right.
Had things changed a little bit.
Well, each week on the Pit Reporters, we'll give you a chance to go to GoPRN.com and vote in our poll. And this week's question is it really 11 against the world? And your choices are absolutely, no, Denny has a few friends, or no, it's only Denny, the rest of the crew is fine. Last week, we asked you, should NASCAR mandate a minimum width for pit roads? And that's coming off of all the mess we saw down at Homestead. 50-50.
Wow.
It was split right down the middle from the fans. How about that? When we come back, I don't think it was split down the middle of the fans of how that Xfinity race finished. We'll talk about that.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive. As you might imagine, I know a thing or two about cars, and I'm here to tell you about a whole new way to buy a car, truck, or SUV. Did you know that Echo Park Automotive has over 95,000 five-star reviews? On top of that, every car that Echo Park Automotive sells goes through a 190-point inspection to make sure that it looks and drives like new, so you leave happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
Whether your engine runs daily or only when you need it, Z-Max Micro Lubricant is the force you need against carbon buildup that can damage your engine. Combustion causes carbon and other harmful deposits to build up in your engine, fuel system, and transmission. And carbon is like sandpaper rubbing against your engine's internal parts. You don't want that. You want Z-Max Micro Lubricant. It soaks into metal and keeps your vehicle running at peak performance. Find out more at zmax.com or visit us on Facebook and Twitter. Protect your engine to the max with Z-Max.
Doug Rice is your host for Fast Talk every week on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
It's hard to believe in this day and age in the United States of America that children are hungry.
Our time on this planet is short. We have to give back to those in need.
Every child has a chance, no matter what obstacles they may encounter.
Never have we been taxed more as a society to help kids the way we are right now.
Speedway Children's Charities raises money through several different avenues. My favorite is the gala.
It's one of those can't-miss events for everybody who attends, and I've been able to raise and distribute over $60 million.
When you have 50 different organizations receiving grants from Speedway Children's Charities, that's far-reaching. And some people think, well, I don't have much money to give. I say $50 is a lot to give.
At Speedway Children's Charities,
our mission is simple. Help every child we can.
Because all children
deserve joy
And hope.
And love. And if one child is still in need,
Then there's still work to do.
Let's get back to more Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back, along with Reed Spencer for the NASCAR Wire Service and Lee Spencer from CatchFence.com and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. I'm Brett McMillan. Glad to have you with us. All right, the weird finish, wild finish to the Xfinity race. I don't think anybody that we've heard is happy with the way things played out, and certainly not Sammy Smith was, should we say, a little bit on the aggressive side, Reed, on the finish of the race in turn 3, basically, and has not apologized for it. Said, I did what I needed to do. I felt like I needed to do to win. NASCAR has come back and said, all right, fine. We're fining you $25,000 and 50 driver's points, which drops him from 6th in the standings to 16th in the standings. What are your thoughts about what we saw?
Well, I tell you what, my rule of thumb is if you wreck the guy to win the race or to try to win the race, then you've got a problem. If you just move him out of the way, which each of those drivers had done to the other prior to that on restarts, then that to me is okay. If the guy you move still finishes second, I'm okay with that. If he wrecks him like he did on Saturday, then I'm not okay with that. Although I wish that those kinds of things would be dealt with at the track immediately. What I thought would have been fair on the occasion is basically when Sammy Smith wrecked Taylor Gray in turns 3 and 4, it dropped Taylor Gray to 29th. I think you put Sammy Smith as the last car on the lead lap or maybe even a DQ, which is roughly the equivalent of well, not quite 50 points, but deal with it then and there so that when you leave the track, you know exactly what the status is, and, the guy gets the message that don't do it again. But I will say that contact and rough driving was endemic throughout that race. You could see it all throughout the field. And, even Austin Hill, who eventually won the race in a big surprise there on the last lap, said that with about 40 to go, he was talking on the radio about how much he hated what they were doing because it was so rough and people were just hitting each other.
Yeah, I heard him in an interview with Sirius this week on the morning drive telling the guys, he said, look, he goes, it's Martinsville. It's just something about Martinsville that people just lose their minds. And it was like that throughout the entire race, Lee.
You don't need a full moon at Martinsville. It brings out the crazies, right?
Oh, gosh, what would happen if we had a full moon at Martinsville?
But even the winner, Austin Hill, got into somebody who, subsequently ended up taking out Jesse Love, his teammate. So it was like there was accordion effect. We heard that a lot. We heard the drivers bunching up. One thing after another. We saw a little bit in trucks, but that was a crap show on Saturday. And I had one third-generation racer come up to me. He goes, that's an embarrassment for our sport to have that kind of competition look like that, the complexion of the competition. I agree with Reed. The person or, whoever is in charge of the series needs to do a quicker job of officiating. We don't need to wait till 5:30 on Tuesday to get the penalty report. It could be done at the track. And I think 50 points, that's almost about where he would have ended up if you DQ'd him or took away his points. So
yeah, he finished 10th.
Right. So that part, that's going to hurt him a lot more than the $50,000. I don't know Sammy's background. I don't know if, writing a $50,000 check makes an impression on the young man. I can guarantee you it's not going to come from the Earnhardts because they don't spend their money for other people's mistakes. So, you can only hope that it's a lesson learned. I did hear Joey Logano was on the morning drive and doing his behind the wheel segment. And I thought it was really interesting because somebody called up and said, they ought to just park him a race, make him either watch the race without communication in the NASCAR hall or up in officiating. And, that might get the point across where you wouldn't see this. But these new drivers, this generation of drivers have never had to work on their cars. Therefore, they don't respect the equipment and they don't respect the people behind the wheel of the equipment. And if you've never worked on a car, you don't know the time and the effort and the financial input into that to making these cars go. If you had to do that, you might learn a lesson.
Well, and take it a step further, these cars are somewhat bulletproof.
Right.
It's not like it used to be.
They started them in Xfinity was kind of like the test, the test dummy for the kind of Lego mentality.
Yeah, there's composites and 14 different panels and all that kind of stuff. But,
snap and go.
Yeah.
But, the thing is, though, we had a conversation with Austin Hill in the media center just informally after the race. And he said, basically something's got to be done, but I don't know what that thing is. At short tracks all around the country, if you're guilty of rough driving, they just simply send you to the back for the next restart. NASCAR has rules against rough driving, but I don't think they want to call balls and strikes. And so, what do you do? What is the solution? How do you get the kids to behave?
Well, and that's the thing that NASCAR talks about a lot is they don't want to rule on intent, which is why I think one of the reasons they don't make a ruling immediately. The fact is, do you think the penalty would have been different or lighter if Sammy Smith had come out and said, I really didn't intend to run over him like that? I don't know. What do you think, Lee? But he came out, he was not apologetic at all.
No. He was not apologetic whatsoever. He owned it and, basically said he was trying to win. And
he basically said, I did it because he would have done it to me, and I was mad because he flipped me off and cussed at me during the red flag.
Did your parents not tell you sticks and stones? Seriously.
Yeah.
Dale Earnhardt was notorious for telling other drivers they were number one. And do you think that they went after the Intimidator? I don't think so.
Not in the car.
No.
Not
Maybe
out
afterwards. Well, that's the thing. I love the whole he would have done it to me. Okay, so
how do you know?
Yeah, how do you know? It's like, I slugged him because he was going to slug me if I didn't slug him first. Really? It's like, that's the thing. Well, now he is going to come and get you at some point. You pretty much ensured that.
Well, and they were talking about, now that NASCAR finds drivers for punching each other, they want to see how far they can push them to really get something rolling. And it's kind of like on the restarts, right? Where the lead driver he holds back just a little bit to try to get the guy to jump the restart. Same thing with the intimidation or the, just trying to get a guy's goat so they'll hit him first. I mean, it's like, I don't know.
Well, in the drivers' meeting on Sunday, Elton Sawyer warned the Cup guys to drive with respect. Well, it's not the Cup guys who were the problem. I mean, that was like a day late and a dollar short. They need to really school the Xfinity drivers because I think they're the most egregious offenders now. I think the trucks have gotten it back more under control. And so I think they need to really have a sit down with the Xfinity drivers and explain to them that we're not going to tolerate this anymore.
Well, and I don't think it's going to be an issue this week at Darlington.
No.
If they've got any sense.
Or at Bristol, because Bristol's such a high-speed short track. I mean, I think you're absolutely right when you say it seems to be localized to Martinsville because that's a place where it sort of lends itself to happening and lends itself to rough driving. People brake hard into the corners, and they get on each other's bumpers all the time.
Well, maybe lost in all of this was a milestone for Richard Childress Racing. We'll talk about that when we come back.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-433-3082. 800-433-3082. 800-433-3082. That's 800-433-3082.
Catch Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown with Charlie and Debbie here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network. It's Bristol.
Now the green flag is waving. We're underway in the Food City 500.
Way too much fun early in the going here at Bristol. Second now belongs to Kyle Busch.
Michael McDowell makes contact with Tyler Reddick. Reddick is spinning. Will he make contact with the inside wall? He gets hit in the driver's door by William Byron.
From the top all the way to the bottom. Big move by Josh Berry. He wants to lead this race.
The Food City 500 from Bristol. Sunday, April 13th, 2 Eastern on PRN. It's Bristol.
Jesse Love goes and cuts down in front of Josh Williams. Austin Hill cannot get the outside line going.
Now he drives up beside Jesse Love. Sam Mayer is going to lead that lap as the pack heads back to one.
Ryan Sieg moving all over the racetrack, upside, downside, trying to block Justin Allgaier, successfully so at this point.
A Love tap in turn 2, a Love tap in turn 3.
The SciAps 300 from Bristol. Saturday, April 12th at 4:30 Eastern on PRN. Brett McMillan returns with more of the Pit Reporters here on the Performance Racing Network.
Sweepstakes fans, start your engine. Visit echopark.com/speedway to enter your chance to win a Toyota Tundra plus a brand new Thor camper. Visit echopark.com/speedway now and you can drive off a winner. Welcome back, along with Lee Spencer from CatchFence.com and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, and Reed Spencer from the NASCAR Wire Service. I am Brett McMillan. Glad to have you with us. All right, there was a landmark in the win by Austin Hill on Saturday, the 100th win for Richard Childress Racing. Nice little round number.
How cool was that? And Austin said that he had a friendly competition going with Jesse Love because after they hit the 99 mark, they so wanted to get 100. They were kind of battling between them, see who got it first. But a lot of good things going on there. I talked to their some of the people from RCR that were out at Millbridge. They're doing really well with selling sponsorship at this point. The Xfinity Series program is going exceptionally well. And those two kids who have all the talent in the world are also running cup races this year. So I think overall, RCR is on the upswing.
Absolutely right. And one thing that came out over the weekend is that Jesse Love is going to get his first cup start as well. So that should be interesting. I thought it was funny because there were a lot of historical parallels from 2 years ago in that Martinsville race, in that back in 2023 in the fall race, the playoff race, it was Sheldon Creed who took out Austin Hill, his teammate, and prevented him from either winning the race or advancing in the playoffs. And Justin Allgaier sneaked through to win that particular race. In this one, it was Hill who got into Allgaier, knocked him into Sammy Smith, slowed them both down, and then came through the bottom, pulling Creed with him to win that race. And as a little side note afterwards, that Austin Hill said he regrets what he said about Sheldon Creed on that day back in 2023, and now they go out and have beers together.
Oh, really? How nice of them.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. I know, because a lot of people at RCR still aren't too happy with Sheldon Creed.
That's true.
Well, it goes a little deeper than that.
For other reasons, too, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, to your point, though, the Xfinity program at RCR is in great shape right now. Both these guys, both Jesse Love and Austin Hill in the top 5. And Austin Hill already a couple of wins, one in Atlanta and now the one at Martinsville.
And Jesse Love will win in the first race. So
yeah, they're in great shape right now. Real quickly, you guys a couple weeks ago posted some pictures as you visited the site of Fontana, and which is supposed to be, we thought it was going to be in the process of being converted to a Bristol-type short track. Is any progress being done along those lines, Lee?
All I can say is I know that the years that we've covered this, that progress has encroached upon places that you never would have thought. Like, I remember the first time I saw Charlotte Motor Speedway, it was out in the middle of nowhere. Yep. There was nothing anywhere close to it. Fontana, where the grandstand is, if you're, standing behind it and you're looking to the east or you're looking to the west, to the east is nothing but Amazon-style warehouses as far as the eye can see going up Cherry Avenue. To the west, there seems to be stuff, but where the backstretch was, where all the campers used to be, that's nothing but warehouses now. So, you could call it progress, you could call it what you want, but it would be a really small track at this point.
The main front stretch grandstand is still there. The towers that have the elevators are still there. And basically the suites, you can still see them up on the front stretch grandstand. But I'm telling you, to go on that property, you probably need to wear a hazmat suit because they even warn you with a sign at the fence there that you don't want to breathe the air around there for too long.
And there's a technical college right there, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
you're subjecting these people to this toxic waste while they're trying to get an education.
Because they buried a lot of toxic waste when they built the track. And, I said the day that they announced the sale of 80% of the Fontana property that this short track is a pipe dream. I've never believed it would ever happen. A lot of people have told me that That's exactly right. And, you know, I think of all the other places in Southern California, in the Inland Empire, Riverside Speedway, Ontario Speedway, which is now Ontario Mills Mall, they're going to be gone. Irwindale just closed up, up near Pasadena. So, NASCAR they've got a real conundrum in terms of trying to get a race back to the LA market in the West Coast.
And as far as LA market, and Fontana's out about as far as you can get with that, right? IndyCar that week, because we spent the night in Palm Springs. The following weekend, IndyCar was there at Thermal, which is out in the desert. It's not too far from LA, but I would not consider it LA proper. Then
keep in mind they only draw what 5,000 people in for that thing.
Well, and
it's
the
a private
electricity
club.
went out,
Yeah,
right?
it's a private club.
But
isn't
I
it?
mean, as of now, I think that would be one option, far-fetched, right? And then Kern County, which is now Kevin Harvick Raceway,
Kevin Harvick's Kern County Raceway,
which is up in Bakersfield. But I mean, other than anything in between those, I don't think that there's a shot.
And although this is another story, I mean, that area out near Thermal is weird. We visited the town of East Jesus out there, and there was an artistic community where they have Salvation Mountain and some other weird things like that. But
East Jesus, is that
East Jesus? It's a real
by the
place.
Salton Sea,
or
the
as
Salton Sea.
Or as Robin Leach once announced at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, that would be East Jesus.
That's right.
I was telling that story to somebody the other day. Remember, you were there when Robin Leach did the driver introductions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Our good friend Jeff Motley, who was the PR guy at Las Vegas Motor Speedway just this past week, left Las Vegas Motor Speedway, posted a picture. He's posted pictures of himself with many of the celebrities who've been there. Posted a picture of himself with Robin Leach. I saw it. I started laughing. The time when Robin Leach introduced Morgan Shepherd as the Racing with Jesus Dodge.
That is right. Oh, yes, I remember that.
Oh, my goodness. Robin Leach has passed away, hasn't he?
I don't know. I don't know. I seem to think so, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. But what about, is Long Beach even a possibility?
No. For several reasons. One, they would have to do some work on the course because it's really, really tight. And second of all, they don't have enough room to park all the haulers they need to park for a weekend that would incorporate both NASCAR and IndyCar. And Long Beach is not going to give up its streets for 2 weekends a year. It's one weekend is it. And so, that's really not the realm of possibility. And I was also told by somebody who is in the know that the idea of running the streets of San Diego is far-fetched too.
So bottom line is you guys saw the site at Fontana and there's nothing going on as far as building a short track. And from what you saw, Lee, that doesn't even look like there's enough room left for that.
They're just building warehouses. I mean, that's what it looks like. It looks like a lot of other outlying areas where, they're there for the benefit of Amazon at this point.
I mean, there might be room in front of the existing grandstand now, but we did not see any indication that they were building anything in the way of racing.
And certainly the aesthetics, surrounded by warehouses. If we went back to Chicagoland, it would be the same thing because at this point, another place, out in Joliet, which was all pasture land at one point, is Warehouse Row.
And that was, there was some talk, since this is the last year of the contract for the Chicago street race, there was talk about going back to Joliet, although I'm told now that that's quieted down as well.
And our own Ask Jeeves, Harold Hambrick, has said that Robin Leach died in 2018.
2018. Okay. So he has moved on.
He has moved on. He may be living with Jesus.
Trouble.
When we come back, NASCAR has a new man in charge. Well, it's the same man in charge, but he's got a new title. We'll talk about that.
Hey, this is Michael Walter for Echo Park Automotive, and I'm here to tell you why you should shop Echo Park before you buy a car, truck, or SUV. Over half of the inventory at Echo Park is priced below $25,000. And car for car, truck for truck, Echo Park Automotive's pricing is $3,000 less than the competition. Maybe that's why Echo Park has over 100,000 five-star reviews. Echo Park Automotive is built to make sure everyone drives away happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
Imagine the roar of the engines, the smell of burnt rubber, the electrifying energy of the crowd. It feels like America. It's the Food City 500 NASCAR Weekend, April 11th through the 13th. It's racing the way it ought to be. This year, it's a triple-header weekend with the thrill of trucks, Xfinity, and Cup racing packed into 3 heart-pounding days. Visit BristolMotorspeedway.com for tickets and details.
Mark Garrow is your host for Garage Pass here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Anytime you get somebody at the front of the pack who's not used to running up there and who's not been there, the established names are going to scream. They're going to cry. They're going to whine. Oh, there's somebody else coming up here to get my trophy and get my money. It's Carson Hocevar. What's he doing up here? He had just as much right to get in there and force the issue. And if not for the caution, he's a race winner.
Hey, this is Doug Rice of the Performance Racing Network. That's Fast Talk right here on PRN.
Local radio brings people together like never before.
It's a beautiful hometown weekend out there. We've got
your local stations keep you informed and involved with music, talk shows, and real-time news updates you can trust. We are live and local. We are America's broadcasters, connecting you to what matters most. Text radio to 52886 and tell Congress to support your local radio stations.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
We're back with more of the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back, along with Reed Spencer from the NASCAR Wire Service, Lee Spencer from CatchFence.com, and also the SiriusXM NASCAR Channel 90. I'm Brett McMillan. Announcement from NASCAR this week that Steve Phelps has been elevated to commissioner of NASCAR, and Steve O'Donnell is now the president of NASCAR. What's this all mean, Reed?
Well, I think what that means is that Steve Phelps, who has been president of NASCAR through schedule changes, through the introduction of the new car, now is going to shift his focus toward an overall marketing of the sport and the expansion into international areas. And I think that that's going to be Steve Phelps' main focus. And Steve O'Donnell is going to take over administration primarily of the competition side and all of the day-to-day aspects of NASCAR. So I think that basically Steve O'Donnell is going to be taking over the areas that Steve Phelps was in charge of, and Steve Phelps's role gets expanded to a more global sense, working with both Jim France and Lisa France Kennedy.
Do you think fans are going to notice a difference because of the expanded roles for these two gentlemen?
I think it's going to be pretty seamless, and I think given Steve's background and his marketing background and his previous experience in the NFL, that he's really well suited to still be the face of NASCAR. To get out there and do the things globally that need to be done. OD on the other side, after 3 decades, behind the scenes getting stuff done, he's always, been interlocked with the competition department. And I just think, he's going to assume a bigger role on that side as well.
I agree. And I think he's going to be working closely with Ben Kennedy on scheduling and things like that. So, I agree that it's going to be probably a pretty seamless transition. And I think it's good for both parties and good for NASCAR.
I saw Phelps is going to spend, I think I said, more time with IMSA now,
yes,
which is really kind of the world, not necessarily the worldwide program of NASCAR, but And obviously a huge part of what NASCAR is doing from a sports car standpoint.
And it's Jim France's baby too.
Absolutely, and I think IMSA was one thing that was highlighted in the announcement as far as Phelps goes, and I think NASCAR sincerely has designs on competing not just in Mexico City or perhaps in Montreal, which is on the table, I understand, again, but actually taking NASCAR racing, perhaps a clash in Brazil or going to Europe where they already have series.
And think about it from this perspective as well, Brett. IMSA has so many more manufacturers over there than we have in the Cup Series that if you start building those relationships and building those bridges now, it's going to make it easier to attract those makes or, one of their sister makes to come over to Cup. That's one of the reasons why when we were talking about the potential of Honda coming over, for instance, they already compete with Acura. That power plant is already in existence. And so if you start changing and go to electrification of the engines, I'm not saying electric engines, but, electrification, they're already down that path with the Acura and
hybrid.
IMSA. So that, kind of gives them a basis to, cut their development time in half.
Now, when Brian France stepped aside and his uncle Jim France took things back over again, where does this leave Jim France now?
Oh, Jim France is still chairman and CEO of NASCAR, and he and Lisa France Kennedy are the owners of NASCAR because they took NASCAR back private, incorporated the racetracks that were under the ISC umbrella, and so everything is now privately held, and Jim basically is the final word on anything that happens with NASCAR. Jim and Lisa are, and they are basically the stockholders of NASCAR at this point.
From our standpoint, obviously in the media, these are guys, Steve Phelps and Steve O'Donnell, people that we deal with or we see at the track. But are the race fans going to notice any difference, you think, Lee, with this change?
I don't think so at all. I mean, I think Steve O'Donnell will become more visible to them where, he's been a behind-the-scenes kind of guy for 30 years. But you could almost start seeing a shift at Daytona because they were putting him more up front and center, kind of, prepping him for this next step. But you mentioned Jim and Lisa. I think at the other side of the bat phone, if you pick it up, Jim's going to be there. And he's been at quite a few events this year as well. And I will say, Reed and I, when we were at the breakfast that they had for William Byron after winning the Daytona 500, Jim came to congratulate Rick Hendrick and, made sure he wanted to have a presence there. So seeing quite a bit of both of them this year.
And both Steves, at the end of the year, State of the Sport press conference, both Steve O'Donnell and Steve Phelps have done that together. And I think that's probably going to continue.
Well, and we know that Lisa's son, Ben Kennedy, is still very involved in the sport and has been one of the driving forces between, getting into these new venues like the Chicago Street Course, LA Coliseum, places like that.
He is the guy in terms of the schedule, and I think he will continue to be, and I think he'll work with O'Donnell on that very closely.
All right. When we come back, Darlington's up next.
Look, how do you feel today? Maybe you're a little hungover again, feeling a little embarrassed about a few things? Listen, why haven't you called yet to get help? Man, aren't you tired of feeling this way? So listen, whatever your party drug of choice is, there are ways to get clean and sober, especially if it's messing with your life. Hey man, we all have choices. You can make a choice right here, right now, today, to call the number I'm about to give you and start a brand new life without drugs or booze. I know it's hard to think about this, but imagine how great your life could be. And all it takes is one simple phone call. I've got a team of people standing by ready to check your insurance and let you know what it takes to get clean and sober. Okay, so get ready to save this number because here it comes.
800-296-1140. 800-296-1140. 800-296-1140. That's 800-296-1140. Paid for by the Detox Treatment Helpline.
Lenny Baticki brings you PRN at the Track every week here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Whether it's skating around the racetrack on a set of rollerblades or turning laps in a Legends car, join JC Fickenshire on JC's Garage.
All it takes is one win, and that one win can completely clear the driver's mind. I could even see it happening if Todd Gilliland wins a race or Noah Gragson wins a race, Zane Smith wins a race. These guys are guys who are just searching for one win, one chance.
JC's Garage, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Hey, it's Charlie and Debbie, along with NASCAR legend Kyle Petty, inviting you to join us for Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown.
Each week, we'll put it in reverse and take a trip down memory lane, looking back at that week's top 20 country songs from years past.
We'll dive into what made those songs and artists move the needle, what pop culture trends made those years unique.
And you'll get to hear me tell stories only I can tell.
So don't miss Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown right here each week.
Let's get back to more Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back, along with Lee Spencer from CatchFence.com and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. Reed Spencer for the NASCAR Wire Service. I'm Brett McMillan. Glad to have you with us. All right, it's the Lady in Black awaiting us, the egg-shaped oval, the track too tough to tame. How many more nicknames has it got?
Is that I think you covered it pretty much. Unless you
Take
use Kyle Petty's, they should fill it with fish.
Yeah, some drivers might feel that way. You know, I have said for years, Lee, that if it's the kind of track that if they built it today, the drivers would hate it. They'd scream and yell about how unfair it is, and they'd hate it. But they all love it because of the tradition of the place.
Well, and nobody more than Chase Elliott. Of the drivers that I talked to Saturday at Martinsville, he just, there's such that historic perspective there. He embraces it. And, you remember Bill winning the $1 million there. Right. So that's kind of in his memory bank, although he was,
I have one of those $1 million bills in my house somewhere with his name misspelled on it.
That's cool.
and Chase won immediately there in the Xfinity Series.
So he really loves that track, but still looking for that elusive win, and I don't know. We'll see what happens. Two of his teammates have won there, and so.
How much do you think I can get for that $1 million bill with Bill Elliott's name
the
misspelled?
error bill? Well, I don't know. That's
$5.
Maybe.
Find the right Elliott fan.
Not as much as the Billy Ripken baseball card.
Yeah. But,
alrighty then.
But another guy, Denny Hamlin's very good there. Eric Jones is very good there. He's gonna need something positive after last weekend.
Brad Keselowski,
defending winner. I mean, he needs an injection.
Chris
of something.
Buescher had the win.
Yeah.
Taken away by a little over anxiousness by Tyler Reddick there. And so
Briscoe won.
Briscoe, dramatic win.
I mean, there's some guys, you mentioned it. I mean, think about, Eric Jones now 29th in points after the DQ last week. Brad Keselowski, 30th in points right now. Ty Gibbs, I mean, here's a poor guy that, Lady Luck has just frowned on him this entire year. Nothing has gone right for those guys. There are some guys here who really could use something positive to turn their year around. And we know, as you guys talked about, Brad Keselowski, the defending winner of this race, he could really use something positive going his way. He's had fast race cars. He's just had bad luck.
He has had bad luck. And on the other side of that, you look at Ryan Preece, who had another top 10 on Sunday.
That's right.
And, his path is kind of similar to what we saw with Chris Buescher when Chris Buescher got over there and just really made the most of the opportunity. But when you have one teammate that's doing so well, and yes, you have to take into consideration the luck factor, but Brad's got to do something, turn it around quick, or he's going to be on the outside looking in for the playoffs.
Well, Brad was not good at Martinsville. And, he struggled there. He stayed out at one point to get track position, and it still didn't do him any good. But I think heading to Darlington, which is certainly one of his favorite places, that they'll have a turnaround this weekend. And unless something goes awry, I think Brad will be a factor.
How concerned will the Penske guys be going to Darlington after what we've seen the last few weeks with, the engine failures that Blaney had, with the battery issue,
alternator?
Last week at Martinsville. I would assume that those guys are going to be down there. I mean, it hasn't been the same thing. You've heard them talking about. Nobody said for sure what happened with Blaney those 2 weeks, but
I don't think they want to talk about the engine because everybody you talk to, they direct you to Roush Yates engines. So
I think Doug Yates is on it, though. I mean,
absolutely. So I have I have absolute faith in Doug to get things turned around. But, I was questioning Blaney's qualifying effort. I mean, that you can't start where he did at Martinsville and fight from behind all day long and expect good results. That was another thing that, I touched on with Chase Elliott. He said the issues that he had the week before at Homestead were on him because he didn't qualify well. He said, and this was right before qualifying on Saturday, he goes, the weekend starts in an hour and I've got to bring my A game because if I don't, I'm behind. If I'm behind, then the pit crew's behind. And he just went down the list about how, qualifying just basically sets the tone for the entire weekend. So even though he didn't have a terrible pit box at Homestead, where he was set him up not only to have issues, the speeding penalty, but then he ran into Blaney. And so he came back last week, qualified second, got a top 5. Now he's third in the points. And so, he was absolutely spot on with diagnosing the issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. And to your point about the Penske guys, I mean, have you ever seen an entire organization run out of batteries during a race? I mean,
and Cindric's cool suit didn't work on Sunday.
Yeah, that's true too.
I mean, I would imagine there's got to be some real concern in that camp going into this race.
Gremlins. But then again, Barry won, right? So they do have a win so far, even though it's a technical alliance but for all intent and purpose, it's a Penske car.
And that's the only Ford win of the season so far.
Well, and then think about, when you look at it, all the pit road issues we saw at Homestead, this is a difficult pit road to get onto at Darlington.
Very,
very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because we usually watch the race from the press box, which hasn't moved, even though the track's been flipped. So we're sitting over there in turn 3, watching the cars. Now the entire approach to pit road is paved. You can go as low as you want to, but that is a tough pit road to get to. There's not really any demarcation until you make that last turn and head for pit road. It's all just one giant swath of pavement.
And if the spotter doesn't bring his A game and you're coming from the wall and try to get onto pit road, we've seen multiple wrecks just trying to get...
Yeah, heading into turn 3, you can't see the entrance to pit road.
I mean, so that's another challenge where these drivers are going to have to be on their A game this week, or you could have a lot of you got to have some spins. We've seen those. You could have a lot of speeding.
Absolutely true. And, that is a real issue that they're going to have to deal with. It's one of the most remarkable... Since we can't see the pit road from the front stretch, so we have to keep track of the cars going to pit road as they dive off of turn 3 and head for pit road, which is sort of in the middle of turn 4.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it makes it fun.
It does.
Absolutely. When we come back, white flag laps.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive. As you might imagine, I know a thing or two about cars, and I'm here to tell you about a whole new way to buy a car, truck, or SUV. Did you know that Echo Park Automotive has over 95,000 five-star reviews? On top of that, every car that Echo Park Automotive sells goes through a 190-point inspection to make sure that it looks and drives like new, so you leave happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
When it comes to maintaining your engine to run at peak performance, trust Z-Max Micro Lubricant. Z-Max soaks into metal, so it's easy to add to your oil or gas to disperse carbon buildup in your engine, fuel system, and transmission. Protect your vehicle's engine to the max with Z-Max. Check us out at zmax.com or visit us on Facebook and Twitter to find out more about our full line of products. Remember the name Z-Max for your car, big rig, small engines, firearms, and more. That's Z-Max Micro Lubricant.
Doug Rice is your host for Fast Talk every week on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Start your engine! Reddick goes right to the bottom of the racetrack. Chastain tries to hold on the outside.
Truex on the inside, Byron in the middle, Chastain up high.
Hamlin now beginning to come to the front. He's got the edge now. He'll take the lead away.
Brian Blaney sliding down into the grass. There was a lot of bumping and grinding, and Blaney noses into the infield retaining wall.
Ross Chastain doing a great job. Truex right there, big in his mirror as they race down the backstretch here. Harrison Burton is spinning down the back straightaway. Everybody going to the top side. Here comes Kyle Larson. Larson dives to the bottom of the racetrack. He wants to lead all four.
Chris Buescher has the advantage and a spin off of turn 4.
Yeah, we've got a ton of cars that are in this one, and Larson is certainly one of those cars.
Trouble coming out of turn 4. Hamlin is sideways. The car spins down on the apron of the racetrack.
Byron takes that brightly painted number 24 to the front. He gets a big shove from Daniel Suarez.
This is PRN.
Brett McMillan returns with more of the Pit Reporters here on the Performance Racing Network.
Welcome back. Time now for our white flag laps. And first up from catchfence.com and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, the hardworking Lee Spencer.
The ever-working, always working. Shout out to Bubba Wallace and the number 23 team under the direction now of Charles Denike. He had a phenomenal outing last year with Christian Eckes over at McAnally Hilgeman Racing in the Truck Series and has brought his energy now to 2311 for Bubba to get back-to-back top fives and, just be up in the points. I think it bodes well for him making the chase on his merit if he can't win before now. It's a bummer because his 2 previous wins have all come in the chase, but he wasn't in it. So, hopefully he gets a win early and gets in on merit.
Yeah, he's certainly headed that direction. Absolutely. Next up from the NASCAR Wire Service, it's Reed Spencer.
Yes, it was Sammy Smith who suffered a $25,000 fine and a 50-point penalty for his actions on the last lap of the Xfinity race at Martinsville last Saturday. However, the mood was set for that race throughout the entire race. There was rough driving going on all the time. In the last segment of that race, after the stage 2 break, there were 10 cautions, and the longest green flag run in that particular segment was 15 laps. Most of the time, they would wreck within 1 or 2 laps of a restart. Basically, yes, I agree that Sammy Smith's penalty was justified, but I think the whole act needs to be cleaned up, and I think NASCAR needs to step in and tell the Xfinity drivers to have a lot more respect for each other, and then enforce it.
I had to stop Harold from throwing a yellow flag during your white flag lap. I love Darlington. It is a throwback. It's the oldest super speedway or soup speedway on the circuit. There is something cool about it. It's not plush. It's not flashy. It's not shined up. It's Darlington. I kind of miss the old days when it was turned back around and the main grandstands were butted right up against the highway. But the fact it's not even a true oval, that one end is wider than the other because of the old minnow pond, there's something special about the place. And like I said before, if they built it today, the drivers would absolutely hate it because it's so tough. But they like it because of the tradition of it. And they'll all come out with those Darlington stripes. because the right side gets rubbed up so bad coming out of turn 2. Enjoy it. It's a fun race to watch. Lee, Reed, thanks a lot for being here. We'll talk to you next week.
Join us again next week for the Pit Reporters on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.